Hi guys, it's Melissa. Today we're going to be talking about 5 plants that have been a success in my garden. I have lived in this home for about 14 years and things have changed. I have reworked flower beds, moved things around, pulled things out, put things in, just things are constantly changing here, which is a good thing because gardening is a hobby of mine. It's something I absolutely love to do, but some things are just not working in my yard and some things have worked really well. And so the things that I will be talking about today are the things that have worked really well for me. The first plant we're going to be talking about is Angelface Angelonia. For me, where I live, it is an annual, but if you live in zones 10 and up, it could actually be a perennial for you, which is fantastic because it is such an amazing plant. Now, I have planted Angelonias in my yard for, I think this is the 4th year I've actually planted it, and it does phenomenal every single year. And it is one of those plants that you put it in the ground and it blooms all the way until you rip the plant out. And I can't believe it. Now, I will say, in years past, I've always fertilized this plant every single week with the Proven Winners soluble, water soluble fertilizer. But this year, I fertilized it until about July. And once July hit, my life just became extremely busy. Things were going on. I was going on vacation. Plus, I have the 5 kids. And I just had to look at my schedule and say, okay, something's got to give. And the thing that I chose was fertilizing every week. That was something I had to cross off my list. And some things didn't do well, but some things did really well. For example, like my Angelonias. You can hardly tell the difference that I haven't fertilized this, since July. So that is fantastic. That to me is a winner because I need plants, at least in this season of my life, I need plants that I don't have to baby, things that I don't have to take care of. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. So if you're a person like me who needs things to just work for you, not against you, this is definitely one of those plants. It is in full bloom to this day, and again, haven't fertilized since July. And that was the beginning of July, mind you. So, and it looks wonderful. Now this plant grows 18 to 30 inches tall and wide, and it's absolutely beautiful. I have it in my front yard right now, and my front yard is north facing, but it's next to the west facing, so I get the hot afternoon sun. It actually just blasts that area, and it does phenomenal. My plant is in full sun all day long, and there's ever zero signs of struggle. In fact, I'd say in July and August, when it's the absolute hottest in my area, it's like bring on the heat because it loves it. Zero signs of struggle, which is another winner for me. The second plant that is on my list is actually called Peter Pan Agapanthus. Now, Agapanthus comes in many different sizes. Some are really big and some are small, like my Peter Pans are actually the compact kind. And it grows anywhere from, I think, 8 to 15 inches tall and maybe 2 feet wide. I'll have to put the stats up, but it's something like that. It is very small, compact, grassy texture plant that is hardy down to zone, I believe, 8. Agapanthus is an evergreen here, and it looks absolutely beautiful, the grassy texture. So I have this planted in my front yard as well, and it is actually right under my, my Oklahoma redbud trees. And so currently it is getting full sun. Eventually, as my Oklahomas actually grow it to full size, they will get more shade. So I may have to move them eventually to a different location. But right now it is right by my front swoop and it looks absolutely beautiful, and I love this plant. Now, if you live in an area where you have deer or rabbit, this is a deer or rabbit resistant plant. They don't like the taste of it, so they stay away from it, which is fantastic. It does attract all the wonderful things like the bees, the butterflies, the hummingbirds, all the things that we want. So that's always a major plus. The more sun that this plant gets, the better. It will just bloom for you in the late spring, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I love the coloring of it. It's got this, again, Agapanthus range in different colors as well. So there's white, there's light purple, and there's this dark blue, which is absolutely beautiful. That's what I want to get my hands on, are the dark blue ones. I think they're so beautiful. Again, I fertilize this once in the spring, and that's it. I don't have to do anything else, and it turns out beautiful every time. The third plant I have on my list are the Bobo Hydrangeas. Now, I talk about the Bobo Hydrangeas because it is one of my absolute favorite plants. It's a lot of plants are my favorites. It's so hard to actually choose just a couple, but Bobos are definitely on the top of my list. I have 5 planted in my front yard and, oh gosh, 6 planted in my backyard. So I have 11 Bobo Hydrangeas total, which that kind of sounds, this sounds a little crazy. I should actually put in more stuff, but I can't help it. I just love them so much. Now, Bobos are a panicle hydrangea, which means their cones have, their blooms are in a cone shape and look so beautiful. They do really well in my hot zone. So I live in zone 9B, Central California. It gets blasting hot sun and very hot. And these plants do well. So the ones in my front yard, they get full sun. Again, full sun pretty much all day. Eventually, as my red buds grow, they will eventually get shade. But right now they're in full sun and they're doing phenomenal. This is, I think, their 3rd year in my yard, I believe so. And no issues. As long as they get enough water, they're fertilized in the spring, but that's it. I don't have to do anything and they do their thing and they make my yard look really well. Now I do have 3 planted under my apricot tree in my backyard that are pretty much in the shade. I don't know how they're going to do in the shade. I know that they bloom better in the sun. So it may not bloom, it may get a few blooms, I'm not sure. It's going to be an experiment. I planted them late in the season this year, so I don't know exactly what it's going to do. Next year we'll find out, and if I have to move things, I'm okay with doing that. But that's an experiment for me over there. I do also have them planted in a sunny spot in my backyard, and my backyard, truly, it's the surface of the sun back here. It is a south-facing backyard, and it gets so incredibly hot. I did plant a camphor tree in my backyard to give us more shade, and eventually, again, the tree will grow where it's, you know, gets more shade. So I'm not so worried about the ones that are in the sun. They're in pots, so they are gonna probably scorch more than they should. But once again, because they're in pots, I can move them if I need to. So things are, I never shy away from trying something. If I really have my mind set on a certain look with a plant in a certain spot, I try it. And if it doesn't work, no big deal, because remember, gardening is our hobby. This is fun. And if we want to try something, maybe it'll surprise you. Plants are tough. So again, full sun hydrangeas in zone 9B California. That's not really heard of, but I do it, and the ones in my front yard do fantastic. So I'm hoping the ones back here do well too. So again, but we'll see next year. Now the cool thing about Bobo hydrangeas is in the fall, their blooms start to turn this magenta pink, and it is so beautiful. I absolutely love the way that looks. These plants are a compact plant as well. I live in a small yard, and I need things to be smaller scale so that I can fit a lot more plants. To me, I want to see the texture. I want to see things just constantly in my yard, and I think that these just fit so perfectly here. So, but they are small, so they grow about 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, and they look beautiful, so pretty. And I am a fan of the panicle hydrangeas, and I'm very thankful that they do well in my yard, because they are truly my favorite. I don't care for the flat, rounded, or mounded kind of hydrangeas. I don't even look at them. I don't know their names because I don't pay attention, because they're not my favorite. But thankfully the panicles do well in my yard, so I have several. Plant number 3 on my list are actually Coleus. Now Coleus is an annual for me. It is hardy, I think, from zone 10 on up. Now granted, when I planted them last year, this spring I did end up getting little baby sprouts coming up in the ground. They didn't do much, and they really haven't grown or produced very much, but I left them there just to see what would happen, and they didn't do anything. So I think that maybe they're just weaker or something, I'm not sure. But they're not they're not a perennial for me. They are annuals, but they're a plant I also plant every year because they look so beautiful. Now again, every year I always fertilize them, except for this year. So since July, once again, I stopped fertilizing because of my schedule, and they've done phenomenally. I'm impressed. I really am. I think that it looks really good, and it is definitely something I don't have to stress about having to fertilize. Now Coleus has actually come in all different sizes and colors and varieties. I have 3 different varieties here in my yard. So in my front yard I have the Rediculous Coleus, the Lime Coleus, and in my backyard I have a different variety, which I don't remember. I'm gonna have to look up and put on the screen what it was called. Two of them are a reddish color and one of them is a chartreuse green. And I love it. So in my front yard, I actually have the Rediculous, which is the red, next to the Lime Time, which is the chartreuse. And the texture of it looks absolutely beautiful. I am a texture person. I love, in my garden, I like a lot of texture and with pops of flowers, and I think that just looks absolutely beautiful. That is my style, what I like, and Coleus gives me that. And so it is exciting that there are so many different types of varieties. You can get tall ones like what I have. I think the ones I have are about 4 feet tall and wide, and all the way to small ones where you can put them in pots or just a little fill-in here and there, and I think that's wonderful. Next year I'm definitely going to up my game with how many Coleus I have because I want more. And again, it gives me the texture I want, and it gives you the color that you can possibly come up with all different looks to it. It's beautiful, and I love it, and it's a plant that does well for me. Now, I don't know if I mentioned, but it is hardy down to zone 10. So if you live in 10 and up, it will actually stay for you. All you have to do is just cut it down in the fall and then let it regrow again in the spring, which is really lucky for you. I have to replace mine completely, but that's okay. It is worth it. I will definitely continue to do that every single year. Now, the fifth plant that I'm going to be talking about today is called Tater Arborvitae. Now, Tater arbs are a small evergreen tree. It is absolutely the cutest thing in the world. So tater tots grow anywhere between 2 to 3 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide, and they are a beautiful evergreen tree. And they're so cute, and they're fluffy, and they're soft, and they give me, it fills my texture need. It really does. It's absolutely beautiful. So I actually, where I have them planted is on one of my, around the base of my Oklahoma redbud. And it just adds the pop of green that I absolutely need. And it's a vibrant green too. It really is striking. And the great thing about this is, you know, some people like to do like boxwoods and stuff, and that is totally fine. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but I know myself, I don't have the time or the dedication really to go out there and trim boxwoods nice and neat. But arbs stay small and they look so beautiful. The tater tots are so chartreuse green that I can put them together, and eventually it's going to grow and look like a nice little hedge around it, and I think it's going to be absolutely pretty. Now, tater tots like part sun to full sun, and I think mine are pretty much in full sun right now. They will eventually be in part sun because, again, of the trees growing and maturing. But like I said, there's no scorching. It looks absolutely beautiful. It is a phenomenal plant for my zone. It is hardy down to zone 3, so if you live in really cold areas, it will do great for you. So that's great. I think that's wonderful. But a benefit for me is that it tolerates my heat, and I think that's fantastic. I love watching videos on YouTube where it's like people are talking about the plants that work well for them, what they do, plants that don't work well for them, and what they do about that as well, because it's like having a conversation with someone. You know, you get to see what works for you, and you can try it out yourself and experiment and see how things will go. And I find that very fun because, you know, it's bonding. It's bonding between us. So I think that's great. So I hope that you enjoyed, and I'd love for you guys to try these plants that I've chosen because these are phenomenal plants. And if they work well in my zone and in my heat, I'm sure it'll work well for you guys as well. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day. See you next time. Bye.